There are 1,000 small ways to know something's wrong. A look held too long. A name dropped too casually. A pause before a laugh. But sometimes it isn't subtle. Sometimes betrayal shows up on your screen, pinned on a digital map, with all the elegance of a knife to the gut. It was 1912 when the notification hit. I just finished folding laundry, her laundry, the usual stack of color-coded sports bras and cotton soft sweaters. I was in our bedroom, window cracked for air, listening to the late spring rain tapping the sill. She was supposed to be at a salon on the edge of town, getting her nails done. French tips, she said. Outskirts, she added, like she knew I'd ask. She always added extra information lately. Always one step ahead of questions I hadn't asked yet. I wasn't suspicious at first. I swear I wasn't. We'd been drifting, sure, emotionally, logistically, even sexually, but not in the way people in trouble usually drift. It was slow, polite, clinical, a mutual ghosting inside our own marriage. It was the rain that got me, I think. The way it brought back the quiet. I was setting her folded tank tops on the dresser when I checked my phone. Just routine. Habit. That empty compulsion to scroll. But the top banner on my screen caught my eye. Your wife's iPhone was last seen. 1912. A little blue dot pulsed on the map. I blinked at it. It wasn't a salon. It wasn't even close. It was Josh's house. My thumb froze against the screen. Josh, my friend. The guy I watched the playoffs with. The guy who helped me move an old couch last fall. The one who sent funny memes about marriage, ironic now, and poured me whiskey the night I got passed up for that promotion. I stared at that little dot like it might move. Like it might shift and tell me I was wrong. She said she had a 6:30 appointment. Said it would run long. You don't have to wait up, she texted. 15 minutes before that blue dot told a different story. I zoomed in. Satellite view. There it was, the familiar asphalt patch of his driveway, his beat-up gray Ford parked out front like always. Her location didn't just drop by. It lingered. Static. At rest. It had been there for a while. My heart didn't race. Not at first. It slowed. Like my body already knew. I'd been here before, in another life. Not this exact betrayal, but close. The moment when your gut confirms what your brain's been too kind to admit. I tapped the icon again. Still there. Still am. I didn't want to believe it. But then another thought hit me. Josh doesn't have a girlfriend. He doesn't get his nails done. He doesn't own a single bottle of shampoo that doesn't double as body wash. She wasn't there by accident. She was there. And she lied to me. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the folded clothes tilting off my lap. I stared at the screen like it might change, like the lie might untell itself if I waited long enough. The timestamp glared at me. Yesterday. 1912. Yesterday. The same night she came home with hair curled and smelling like lavender. The same night she handed me a takeout bag with a kiss and said, "Sorry I was out so late. Traffic was crazy." I'd thanked her. I'd told her the food was perfect. I hadn't known my friend was feeding her first. I set my phone down like it might burn me. She was in the kitchen now, humming. Leftovers reheating in the microwave. Ordinary. Calm. The kind of moment that, hours ago, would have felt safe. I stood slowly, careful not to let the mattress creak. My hands felt detached from me, foreign. I picked up the phone again. Screenshot. Saved. Just in case. Then I turned off location tracking. No need to let her know I'd seen it. Not yet. Josh. Of all people. I thought back. When was the last time I mentioned him around her? A month ago? Longer? She'd asked about him, vaguely. Casual. How's he doing? I'd said something about his job. She'd nodded. Moved on. The kind of conversation that evaporates before it ever starts. But now, looking back, I realized her nails were never chipped. She never came home smelling like acetone. And that new playlist she played in the car last week, it had one of Josh's favorite artists on it. I hadn't thought much of it. He always went on about that band. Suddenly, it all felt deliberate, choreographed. I stepped out of the bedroom and into the hallway. The soft overhead light made everything feel too normal. She stood in the kitchen, back turned, stirring noodles, wearing that old college hoodie of mine like it meant something, like she hadn't just been at his place yesterday. 1912. I watched her for a moment. The small curve of her spine, the way she tucked hair behind her ear. She looked up, startled. "Hey, you okay?" I nodded, said nothing. My throat felt lined with glass. "You sure?" she asked again, turning the stove off. "You look weird." I walked forward and kissed her on the forehead. She smiled. I smiled back. She didn't know I'd already seen the truth. I sat across from her at the table and listened to her talk about her day. Her appointment, how the nail technician was running late, how the music in the salon was bad. She even showed me her nails. French tips. I wondered who really painted them. Josh wasn't the nail salon type. And now I had a plan. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I laid beside her, eyes closed, heart ticking like a bomb on a timer, trying to slow my breathing so she wouldn't notice. Her back was to me, same as always lately. The weight of her body under the blanket, her warmth, her steady breathing, it all felt counterfeit now, like a bad copy of something I used to believe in. Every now and then, she'd shift, adjust the covers, murmur something incoherent in her sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, counting the seconds between each breath she took. By morning, I had already made 2 decisions. 1. I wasn't going to confront her yet. 2. I needed to see Josh. She left for work early, like she always did on Fridays. "Big meeting," she said. Kissed me like nothing was cracked beneath the surface. I said, "Good luck," without flinching. It surprised even me. 10 minutes after she backed out of the driveway, I was in the car. Not dressed for work. Just jeans, an old gray t-shirt, and a plan I hadn't fully shaped yet. Josh lived 10 minutes away, in one of those cookie-cutter cul-de-sacs with trimmed hedges and identical mailboxes. His porch had a crooked wind chime that clinked when I stepped up. I didn't ring the doorbell. I knocked. It was early, so it took a minute. Then he opened the door. Hair messy, hoodie half-zipped. His face froze when he saw me. That pause was all I needed. "Hey," he said, like he wasn't sure if he was dreaming or dying. "Hey," I answered. I kept my tone neutral, casual, as if I was just dropping by, as if I hadn't seen everything. He stepped back automatically, holding the door open. "You okay, man? You look tired." "I am." I stepped inside. This place smelled faintly of cologne and air freshener, the same scent that lingered on her jacket sometimes. I never questioned it before. I do now. He followed me into the living room, rubbing the back of his neck. "Want coffee?" "Sure." In the kitchen, I watched him pour it, hands a little too steady, voice too smooth. He was trying to pretend nothing was off, but I saw the nervous twitch in his jaw. I knew him well enough to spot it. We sat at his counter, mugs in hand, the silence settling between us like a loaded gun. "You see Lily lately?" I asked, casually. He blinked. Not in a while." "Why?" I shrugged. "She said she had a nail appointment yesterday, but find my put her here." The lie showed in his eyes before it hit his mouth. Just a flicker. That half-second lag. He laughed, too loud. "Oh yeah, she did stop by. Dropped something off. Like her sunglasses. Said she forgot them." I sipped my coffee. It was bitter. At 7:12 p.m.? For an hour and a half? He set his mug down too hard. "Man, is something going on?" I smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly. Just a smile that said, "You really want to do this?" "She told me she was at the salon," I said softly, "getting her nails done. On the outskirts." I even gave him the exact words she used. He looked away. "That's what she told you," he said. "Yeah, and I believed her." We sat in silence. The kind of silence that cracks open old things. Then I stood, walked toward his hallway. What are you doing? Looking. Looking for what? Evidence. Jesus, man, he stood too, blocking the hall. I stared at him, long enough that he broke. Okay, he said, dropping his arms. Look, nothing happened. All right? It wasn't like that. I stepped closer. What was it like? He hesitated. Then, she came by. She was upset. Said you'd been distant. We had a drink. Talked. That's it. Right. Just a drink. Man, you're being paranoid. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and showed him the screenshot. Blue dot. Timestamp. Address. I watched him read it. The color drained from his face. You're a liar, Josh. He looked at the floor. I didn't want to get in the middle. You were the middle. He swallowed. Looked like he was going to say something else. But he didn't. I turned and walked out. Back in the car, hands on the wheel, I tried to breathe. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't punched him. That restraint scared me more than if I had. It meant my mind was sharpening, planning. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the screen again. Not the map this time. The calendar. She had a recurring salon appointment every other Thursday. For the last 4 months. 4 months. I did the math. Matched the timestamps from old Find My data. Screenshotted everyone. The dots lined up like trail markers. Josh's house again and again. My hands didn't shake. They just moved. I opened a new file on my laptop and began saving everything. Call logs, texts, calendar entries, location history. Her bank statements, too. She always left herself logged in. And there, in the credit card history, a charge at Lux Nails and Spa dated 5 months ago. One time. After that, nothing. Just the story she kept selling me. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. It wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about how confidently she believed I'd never look. She didn't think I'd suspect a thing. She was right, until last night. And now? Now, I'd let her keep thinking that. Let her lie a little longer. Let her stack her version of the truth. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to trap her. It's strange how quickly you can slip into a role. In the days that followed, I became something between a husband and a spy. I cooked dinner, asked her about work, kissed her on the cheek when she left in the morning. She smiled more than usual, like she sensed the distance had thinned. Like she believed whatever guilt flickered behind her eyes was invisible. She didn't know I saw it all. She didn't know I was documenting everything. She didn't know I was waiting. I'd build a folder on my desktop, hidden, encrypted, labeled something forgettable, budget archive. Inside were screenshots of text logs, GPS records, timestamps. Even a few voice memos I recorded when she'd talk about her appointments. I'd just nod and hit record. Let her words dig their own grave. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do with it all. Divorce? Maybe. I wasn't naive. But I wasn't impulsive either. I wanted certainty. Not just betrayal, but intent. Pattern. That part of her that calculated the risk and still decided to lie. I wanted to know who she became when she thought I wasn't looking. Friday morning, I got my chance. She forgot her phone. She left it on the bathroom counter, screen down, while rushing to meet a client. She didn't even realize it until I texted her from mine, a casual, "Hey, you left this." She told me not to worry. "Just grab it when I'm back," she said. "I don't need it today." I stared at that screen for a long time before I picked it up. I knew her passcode. Of course I did. 6 digits she never bothered to change. The phone opened like a confession. She deleted her texts. Most of them, but not the backups. She never thought to erase her iCloud settings. I accessed the synced messages easily through the settings menu. His name wasn't Josh in the phone. He was saved as Mia. Cute. Clever. I clicked it. The last text from her was 3 days ago. Her, "Last night was amazing. I dreamed about you." That thing you whispered before I left, still echoing in my head. I needed that more than I realized. I felt it like a punch to the ribs. There were older messages too. Not every day, but frequent, consistent, intimate. Photos. A few. Nothing explicit. But the way she smiled at him in those selfies, the softness in her eyes, the bare collarbones, the sheets visible behind her, none of it was for me. They had a system. She'd come over during my late nights, tell me she was visiting her sister, or that she needed air, space, the freedom we all talk about but rarely offer. And he gave it to her. My best friend. My ghost. Scrolling further back, I found a message that made my stomach turn. Him. You ever think about telling him? Her. No. He'd fall apart. He's too fragile. He needs me to pretend. Fragile. That word stayed with me. Fragile. Like I was a cracked vase she had to dust off out of pity. Like she was doing me a favor. I wasn't angry. Not in that moment. I was still. Sharp. A blade, not a bomb. I downloaded the entire conversation thread. Airdropped it to my laptop. Then logged out, wiped the recent searches, and set her phone back on the bathroom counter. Right where she left it. By the time she came home that evening, I was chopping garlic, pasta boiling behind me. She walked in like she always did, keys jangling, shoes kicked off. Her voice floated through the hallway. Hey, babe. I smiled. Hey, how was the client meeting? Oh, exhausting. He kept trying to upsell me on a service we don't need. I hate those guys. I stirred the sauce. Bet you handled it. Barely. I need a glass of wine. She poured one without asking if I wanted any. She always used to. Later that night, in bed, she curled into me. That was new. Her leg brushed mine. I pretended to be asleep. Let her settle. Let her believe we were okay. Saturday morning, she had another appointment. This time, I followed her. I'd been rehearsing it in my head all night, what I'd say if she caught me, what I'd do if she didn't go where I expected. But she made it easy. She drove to Josh's, pulled into the driveway like it was her own. No hesitation, no scan of the surroundings. I parked 2 streets over, out of sight. Walked to the corner where I could see his house through the slats of a neighbor's fence. Watched her get out of the car. Knock once. The door opened. Josh smiled. She stepped inside. I didn't move. Didn't rage. Didn't cry. I just noted the time. 10:37 a.m. 10 minutes later, I left. Walked back to my car. Drove home. I didn't need to see what happened inside. That part didn't matter anymore. I had enough. Enough to end it. Enough to destroy them. The only question left now was, how? There's something eerie about how quickly you can slip into a double life. By Sunday morning, I was running 2 versions of myself. One that folded laundry, made coffee, and asked her how she slept, and another that quietly assembled a case. A case against the woman I used to believe in. I didn't rush it. I didn't storm out or expose her or scream. That's what she'd expect. That's what they always expect. Some messy, emotional collapse. Some wounded display that lets them feel righteous. Victimized. But I wasn't giving her that. I was going to let her hang herself with the rope she thought I was too stupid to see. I spent the next week gathering details. Tightening the net. She still had no idea I knew. That was the part that stunned me the most. She had no sense of danger. No intuition about what she'd set in motion. She even joked about Josh on Monday. I mentioned him casually, asked if she remembered that time we went to his place for the Super Bowl. She didn't flinch. Just rolled her eyes. Josh and his frozen chicken wings, she said, sipping her wine. God, he's such a bro sometimes. I nodded. Haven't seen him in a while? Yeah, she replied, without missing a beat. You should invite him over sometime. Invite him. The man she was sleeping with. Into my home. Into the place I paid for. Where we slept. Where we made plans. It was almost impressive how effortlessly she lied. I recorded that conversation too. The plan wasn't clear yet. I wasn't sure what revenge even looked like in a situation like this. I wasn't interested in making a scene or ruining lives out of spite. That wasn't me. But I wanted her to feel it. The slow collapse of the lie. The slow horror of realizing she'd underestimated the one person she thought was harmless. I started leaving small cracks in the mask, just to test her. On Wednesday night, as we got into bed, I asked, "Do you still go to Lux Nails?" She blinked. It was subtle, but I caught it. "Yeah." "Why?" "No reason," I said. "Just realized I've never actually seen the place." She smiled. "It's boring. You're not missing anything." I nodded, kissed her cheek, then rolled over. Thursday night, I moved out $8,000 from our joint account, quietly, into a private account she didn't know existed. She never checked statements anyway. I made sure the notification settings were off. Friday, I took off work, drove to the bank, closed out the emergency fund account she never bothered to manage. She always said financial stuff bored her. I also contacted a lawyer, not a flashy one. Quiet, direct. He'd helped a friend of mine through a custody battle last year. I told him I wanted to prepare paperwork. Nothing filed yet. Just prepared. He looked at me carefully. "You sure?" I nodded. "Not yet. But I will be." I wasn't bluffing. Not after what I found that afternoon. I'd been digging through her cloud backups again. Not for messages, this time for photos. She had a habit of snapping quick ones. Dinner plates, hotel lobbies, bathroom mirrors. And there it was. A picture she'd taken 2 weeks ago. She was in bed. Not ours. Hair messy. Wearing my college t-shirt. But the headboard behind her wasn't familiar. It was his. Josh's. I zoomed in. You could see part of his face reflected in the TV across the room. She hadn't even noticed. It was a perfect mistake. I saved it, archived it, added it to the growing pile. And then, on impulse, I called Josh. He didn't pick up. I didn't expect him to. So I texted. "You know, I always wondered what betrayal would feel like. Thanks for answering that. Don't worry, I won't make a mess. But you'll both know exactly what you've done by the end of this." He didn't reply. But I saw the receipt. Later that night, she was all over me. Hands on my neck. Kisses lingering a second too long. I let her. Played the role. Acted like I believed every word she fed me. She said, "You've been so sweet lately." I smiled. "So have you." She laughed. "Maybe we're turning a corner." I said nothing, because I knew what was around the corner, and she wouldn't be ready. The night I decided to end it, I made her favorite dinner. Seared salmon, roasted asparagus, that garlic lemon pasta she always requested on her birthday. I opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving for something special. She walked in from work and smiled like nothing was cracked beneath the surface. Like I was just her quiet, dependable husband playing house. She didn't know I had spent the afternoon finalizing the divorce papers. Didn't know I'd attached copies of Josh's texts, the GPS logs, the receipts, the photos. The image of her in his bed wearing my shirt. The reflection in the screen. The timestamp. Didn't know I'd written a cover letter to go with it. Nothing dramatic. Just bullet points. Her lies. Her movements. Her words. I even included a copy of her own text to Josh. "He's too fragile. He needs me to pretend." I printed it all. Bound it. Left it in a plain manila envelope. I was calm. Surgical. We sat at the table. Ate like normal. She laughed. Told me about her coworker's drama. How someone got caught sleeping with their intern. "People are messy," she said, shaking her head. "I don't get it." I raised my glass. To honesty. She clinked it without irony. After dinner, we watched a show. Something mindless. A sitcom. She curled into me on the couch. Bare feet tucked under my leg. Like she still believed in us. At one point, she looked up. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah." Just tired. You've been distant this week. Sorry. She smiled. It's okay. I'm glad we're getting back to normal. I kissed her forehead. Me too. She fell asleep on my shoulder 20 minutes later. I waited until her breathing steadied, then gently slid out from under her, grabbed the envelope from my desk drawer, placed it beside her on the coffee table, went upstairs, packed a single duffel, just the essentials, documents, clothes, my laptop, a hard drive with backups of everything. I left my keys on the kitchen counter, turned off the lights. I stood by the front door for a moment. The house was silent except for the low hum of the fridge and the murmur of the TV. I didn't say goodbye. She wouldn't understand it yet, but she would. By the time I got to the hotel, it was 2:07 a.m. I checked in under my middle name, used the backup credit card she didn't know about. The clerk didn't ask questions, just handed me the key. Room 317, one king bed, no frills. I set my bag down, sat on the edge of the mattress, pulled out my phone. One missed call. From her. No voicemail. I turned it off. When I woke up the next morning, there were 12 missed calls, 3 voicemails, 2 texts. Lily, where are you? Lily, what's going on? Lily, I don't understand. Of course she didn't. She'd built a life on the assumption that I never would. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I drove across town, parked outside Josh's place, waited. He opened his door at 11:04 a.m. wearing the same hoodie from before. Still hadn't shaved. He saw me immediately. I didn't move. He froze, then stepped out, started walking toward my car. I rolled down the window but stayed seated. He looked like hell, eyes hollow, jaw clenched. You sent her that, he said. The packet. I said nothing. She's losing it. I looked at him. Good. He glanced at the sidewalk. You didn't have to blow it all up. You think this is blown up? I said. Trust me, Josh. You haven't seen anything yet. He opened his mouth to respond. Thought better of it. Then, are you going to tell people? I smiled. I don't have to. She will. That shut him up. I rolled the window up, drove off, left him standing in his driveway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. By noon, she'd started calling from a different number. Her sister's. I didn't answer. At 1:22, she sent another message. Lily, please, can we talk? Just once. I texted back one word. Me. Read. That was all I said. That was all she needed. By 4 o'clock, she had messaged again. Lily, I messed up. I know. But we were broken before this, and I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. Lily, you were always so good. I always felt like I was waiting to fall short. Lily, I never stopped loving you. I just started loving the escape more. There it was, the closest she'd ever get to the truth. I didn't reply. I printed those texts too, added them to the file. Later that night, I sat in the hotel room, staring at the city lights blinking outside the window. I wasn't angry anymore, just hollow. Not grief, not rage, just the shape of something missing. 10 years, and she'd reduced it all to a handful of texts and lies. But it wasn't about the love anymore. It was about the silence she left behind, and how I'd finally stepped out of it. She finally stopped texting 3 days later. The last one was short. No emotion. No pleading. Just facts. Lily, I've moved out. I left the keys with my sister. I'm staying at my mom's. You'll hear from my lawyer. I read it once, then deleted it. Not out of anger. Just necessity. There was nothing left to say. By then, I had already accepted the silence. It wasn't loud anymore. It didn't feel like absence or punishment. It just was. A space I could breathe in. The house was mine now. Or would be, once the paperwork cleared. She didn't fight for it. Probably couldn't stomach staying in the same walls where she'd built her lies. Good. Let her start fresh in someone else's echo. I went back 2 weeks later, not for closure, just to collect what was left. The place smelled different, colder, emptier. She'd taken most of her things, but not all. Her red scarf was still hanging on the back of the door. Her coffee mug, chipped at the rim, still sat in the cabinet. A perfume bottle in the bathroom, half-used, like she couldn't bear to finish it. I boxed up what was hers. Not out of kindness. Just order. When I reached the bedroom, I hesitated. The bed was stripped. Her drawer was empty. But in the corner of the closet, behind a stack of unused towels, I found something small. A notebook. She'd written in it sporadically. Little fragments. Lists. Thoughts. A few journal-style entries. One page caught me. It wasn't dated, but I could guess the time frame. Probably 2 months before I found the truth. Sometimes I imagine telling him. Just laying it out. Not to be cruel, but honest. And then I imagine what his face would look like, and I can't do it. I think I love him. I think I'm just tired of loving someone I keep disappointing. She hadn't written much after that. I closed the notebook, left it on the kitchen table. She could come get it if she wanted. Then I locked the door behind me and didn't look back. The divorce itself was smooth. She didn't drag it out. We'd both agreed to split things cleanly. No alimony. No ugly depositions. We never had kids. Just a cat once, years ago. Long gone now. Josh disappeared too. I heard through someone, maybe a friend of a friend, that he moved away. Transferred offices. Coward. He never reached out again. I was grateful for that. In the months that followed, life didn't snap back. It unraveled slowly. Like peeling off wet clothing after a long, freezing storm. You don't feel warm immediately. You just stop shivering. People asked questions, of course. The polite kind. The kind that hinted at gossip but didn't want to admit it. What happened with you and Lily? We just went in different directions. That was all I said. Some of them probably knew. A few probably suspected. It didn't matter. I wasn't chasing sympathy. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. I changed my routines. Started running in the mornings. Not to punish my body, just to quiet my head. I changed the locks. Got a new couch. Painted the bedroom. Little things. Subtle things. But every change carved a little more of her out of the space. I thought it would hurt more. That I'd lie awake haunted by her laugh or her scent on the pillow. But I slept. Deeply. There was a peace in knowing. Even if the truth gutted you, at least it ended the guessing. I still think about that night sometimes. The way she curled into me before I set the envelope on the table. How easy it would have been to pretend a little longer. To tell myself she'd come back if I just held on tighter. But I didn't. Because I finally saw her clearly. Not the version she tried to sell me. Not the wife I constructed from memory. But the woman who stood in my kitchen and lied to my face while I stirred her pasta. The woman who walked into another man's house like it was home. The woman who thought I was too weak to see it. She was wrong. I wasn't fragile. I was waiting. And now? Now I live in the quiet. No lies. No knots in my chest. No second-guessing where she is when her phone goes dark. Just stillness. Clean counters. Fresh sheets. And a locked drawer in my desk. Inside it, a bound file. Labeled only with a date. The day I stopped being hers. And started being mine again. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.